The Galactic Empire, a sprawling interstellar civilization spanning thousands of conquered worlds, looked upon the primitive human race with a mixture of disdain and unbridled ambition. For centuries, the imperial forces had subjugated one alien species after another, adding their resources and populations to the ever-growing dominion of the self-proclaimed masters of the galaxy. Now, with its insatiable hunger for expansion, the Empire had set its sights on the verdant planet known as Earth. Located on the outer fringes of the known galaxy, this world was home to a technologically inferior species, their primitive rocketry and chemical-based weaponry posing little threat to the Empire's vastly superior warships and energy-based armaments. In the opulent throne room of the Imperial capital, Moff Tarkin, a high-ranking Imperial commander, pored over the latest intelligence reports from the frontier worlds bordering Earth's system. A cruel smile played across his weathered features as he reviewed the detailed scans of the planet's defenses, or rather, the notable lack thereof. Primitive fusion bombs and chemical propellants. Tarkin mused, his icy blue eyes narrowing. Hardly a match for our turbolasers and proton torpedoes. This humanity will make for an easy conquest. Tapping a command into the gleaming holographic display before him, Tarkin summoned his most trusted subordinates, each one a seasoned veteran of countless campaigns of imperial subjugation. Admirals, the time has come to add the planet Earth to the Empire's growing domain, he announced, his voice carrying an air of absolute certainty. Prepare our invasion forces. I want this backwater world pacified within a solar cycle. The assembled admirals exchanged a series of approving nods, their confidence in the Empire's superiority absolute. After all, what could a few million insignificant humans possibly do to stand against the might of the Imperial war machine? In the coming days, the orders filtered down through the chain of command, mobilizing thousands of stormtroopers, legions of Imperial walkers, and entire squadrons of advanced TIE fighters. The invasion fleet, a formidable armada of star destroyers and support vessels, began its inexorable journey toward the distant planet, its commanders certain of a swift and decisive victory. But unbeknownst to the Galactic Empire, the nations of Earth had long been preparing for this very eventuality. In the highest echelons of human power, a top-secret project had been underway for decades, one that would soon shatter the Empire's arrogant assumptions and catch the would-be conquerors completely off guard. For buried deep beneath the surface of the primitive human homeworld, a colossal supercarrier lay dormant, its immense size and advanced weaponry a closely guarded secret. This behemoth of engineering, the culmination of humanity's greatest scientific and technological achievements, was poised to unleash a fury that the Galactic Empire had never anticipated, a fury that would shake the very foundations of the imperial regime. As the invasion fleet drew ever closer to Earth, the fate of both civilizations hung in the balance. The galaxy was about to witness a clash the likes of which it had never seen, one that would reverberate through the stars for generations to come. As the Galactic Empire's invasion fleet hurtled through the void of space, its commanders confident in their overwhelming technological superiority, the nations of Earth were busily engaged in a covert, decades-long project that would soon shatter the Empire's arrogant assumptions. In the highest echelons of human power, a cadre of visionary scientists, engineers, and military strategists had been pooling their resources and expertise, collaborating in utmost secrecy to construct a weapon that would defend their homeworld against any interstellar aggressor. The project's epicenter was a remote, heavily fortified installation buried deep beneath the surface of the planet, hidden from prying Imperial sensors. Here, within a vast subterranean complex, the construction of a colossal supercarrier had been progressing at a feverish pace, its true nature concealed from even the most curious of onlookers. General Alexander Ivanov, the project's military overseer, paced the length of the supercarrier's cavernous launch bay, his piercing gaze sweeping over the legions of technicians and engineers swarming over the vessel's gleaming hull. After decades of painstaking work, their crowning achievement was nearing completion, a testament to humanity's resolve and innovative spirit. 23 kilometers long, 6 kilometers wide, and over 2 kilometers in height. Ivanov murmured, his weathered features betraying a rare glimmer of pride. A true behemoth of engineering, capable of matching the Galactic Empire's mightiest warships. Approaching a holographic display, the general summoned a detailed schematic of the supercarrier, its specifications scrolling across the screen in crisp, emerald-hued text. Armored with the latest in alloy composites, powered by a revolutionary fusion reactor, and equipped with enough firepower to lay waste to an entire Imperial fleet, he continued, his tone growing more resolute. When the time comes, this vessel will be humanity's shield and sword against any who would seek to subjugate us. Turning to face his assembled command staff, Ivanov's eyes burned with a fierce determination. The Galactic Empire imagines that our primitive technology poses no threat to their vaunted war machine, he declared, but they have yet to face the full might of human ingenuity and resolve. When the invaders arrive, we shall be ready, and they will learn the true cost of their arrogance. As the general's words echoed through the cavernous chamber, a chorus of approving murmurs rippled through the gathered technicians and officers. They knew that the fate of their homeworld hung in the balance, and they were prepared to do whatever it took to defend their freedom. In the days that followed, the final preparations for the supercarrier's activation were completed, while the Galactic Empire's invasion fleet continued its relentless approach toward Earth. The two civilizations were on a collision course, each unaware of the other's true capabilities, a clash that would soon redefine the balance of power in the galaxy. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of the Imperial regime, as humanity's hidden supercarrier prepared to unleash its fury upon the unsuspecting would-be conquerors. As the Galactic Empire's massive invasion fleet emerged from the void of hyperspace, its ominous star destroyers and support vessels filling the skies over Earth, the political leaders of the world found themselves faced with a momentous decision. In the subterranean command center of the hidden supercarrier, General Ivanov and his staff monitored the Imperial Armada's approach with a mixture of trepidation and grim determination. After decades of painstaking preparation, the time had come to unveil their trump card and strike back against the would-be conquerors. The Imperial fleet has entered standard attack formation. "Sir," reported one of the officers, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Their landing craft are powering up, ready to deploy ground forces." Ivanov nodded solemnly, his weathered features betraying no hint of doubt or fear. "Then let us show these invaders the true might of humanity. Activate the supercarrier systems and prepare to engage the enemy." Across the globe, the world's political leaders convened in an emergency session, their faces etched with a mixture of terror and resolve. They knew that the fate of their homeworld and the freedom of their species hung in the balance. After heated debate, a decision was made to unveil the supercarrier and strike back against the Galactic Empire before it was too late. "Sound the alert," the UN Secretary-General commanded, his voice carrying an unmistakable authority. "Initiate the supercarrier's launch sequence. We will not go gentle into the night." Klaxons blared to life across the planet, warning sirens echoing from every corner of the globe. And deep beneath the Earth's surface, the colossal supercarrier rumbled to life, its massive fusion reactors powering up as the vessel prepared to emerge from its hidden lair. The Imperial forces, confident in their technological superiority, had scarcely a moment to react before the ground began to tremble. Massive plates of reinforced alloy peeled away, revealing a gaping chasm in the Earth's crust, and from the depths, a titanic silhouette began to rise. Shuddering and groaning, the supercarrier ascended, its towering form casting an immense shadow over the startled Imperial fleet. On board the bridge, General Ivanov watched with a grim satisfaction as the enemy vessels scrambled to reorient their barrage of turbolaser fire. "All batteries, open fire," he barked, his voice carrying over the din of the supercarrier systems. "Show these invaders the true power of humanity." A thunderous roar shook the very foundations of the Earth as the supercarrier's advanced weaponry came to life. Streams of superheated plasma, particle beams, and guided missile salvos lanced out, slamming into the Imperial ships with devastating force. Caught completely off guard, the Imperial fleet found itself in disarray, its vaunted technological superiority rendered meaningless in the face of the humans' unexpected firepower. Star destroyers and support craft were torn apart, their hulls breached, and their crews scrambling for escape pods. General Ivanov watched with grim satisfaction as the Imperial invaders reeled, their overconfidence shattered by the awesome might of the supercarrier. This was humanity's moment, the moment when they would prove to the galaxy that they were no mere primitive species, but a force to be reckoned with. For the freedom of our homeworld, he roared, his fist raised in triumph. For the future of our species. As the battle raged on, the fate of both civilizations hung in the balance, with the Galactic Empire facing a humiliating defeat at the hands of the insignificant human race. The devastating barrage from the human supercarrier had caught the Galactic Empire's invasion force completely off guard, shattering the Imperial commander's confidence in their technological superiority. Entire squadrons of TIE fighters were annihilated, while the mighty Star Destroyers found their shields and hull plating overwhelmed by the supercarrier's relentless firepower. Aboard the bridge of the Imperial flagship, Moff Tarkin's features were contorted in a mask of pure rage. How dare these primitive humans defy the might of the Empire? With a guttural snarl, he slammed his fist against the command console, his icy blue eyes burning with a murderous fury. "Unacceptable," he roared, spittle flecking his lips. "Prepare a full-scale counterattack. I want that abomination of a ship reduced to molten slag." The fleet's seasoned admirals exchanged a series of grim looks, their own confidence shaken by the unexpected onslaught. But they knew better than to question the Moff's orders, lest they incur his wrath. "At once, sir," one of the admirals replied, his voice betraying a hint of trepidation. "All vessels, assume attack formation. Deploy our most advanced warships and prepare to engage the enemy at maximum firepower." Across the Imperial lines, the order rippled through the ranks, galvanizing the battered forces into a renewed assault. Hulking Star Destroyers disgorged waves of TIE fighters, while the flanks of the formation were bolstered by the arrival of reinforcements. Sleek, heavily armed Predator-class cruisers, and the towering, intimidating bulk of Subjugator-class heavy cruisers. Undaunted by the impressive display of Imperial might, the human supercarrier and its escort fleet responded with a barrage of their own. Particle beams lanced out, shredding through the enemy's shields and hulls, while waves of guided missiles and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the advancing warships. The ensuing battle was a maelstrom of destruction, with both sides unleashing the full fury of their arsenals. The supercarrier's advanced fusion reactors provided it with an inexhaustible supply of power, fueling its devastating energy weapons and point defense systems. But the Imperial forces, driven by their wounded pride, pressed the attack relentlessly, heedless of the mounting casualties. General Ivanov watched the conflict unfold from the supercarrier's command deck, his features etched with a mixture of grim determination and cautious concern. Though his crew fought with unwavering courage, the sheer scale of the Imperial onslaught was beginning to take a toll. "Lieutenant, status report," he demanded, his eyes scanning the tactical displays. "Sir, our forward shields are at 80% and dropping," the officer reported, her voice taut with tension. "Several decks have sustained heavy damage from enemy bombardment. We're holding our own, but—" Ivanov raised a hand, silencing her. "But the Empire's reinforcements are turning the tide." "I know, Lieutenant. Divert all available power to our forward defenses and weapon systems. We must hold them off, no matter the cost." As the battle raged on, the human supercarrier and its beleaguered escort fleet found themselves slowly being overwhelmed by the relentless Imperial assault. The once confident Moff Tarkin now wore a savage grin, his arrogance restored by the sight of the humans' desperate struggle. "Keep up the pressure," he commanded, his voice dripping with triumph. "They will soon learn the true price of defying the might of the Galactic Empire." As the brutal battle between the human supercarrier and the Galactic Empire's reinforced invasion fleet raged on, it became increasingly clear that the humans were being overwhelmed by the sheer scale and firepower of the Imperial onslaught. Despite the supercarrier's advanced capabilities, the steady stream of enemy reinforcements and their unrelenting assault were slowly but surely wearing down the human defenders. General Ivanov watched the tactical displays with a growing sense of dread, his brow furrowed in deep concentration. The Empire's triumph was all but assured at this point, unless he and his commanders could devise a desperate gambit to turn the tide. "Sir, we're sustaining heavy casualties," one of his officers reported, her voice tinged with desperation. "Our shields are at 50% and falling. The enemy's superior numbers and firepower are grinding us down." Ivanov nodded grimly, his mind racing. "Then we must give them what they want, or at least what they think they want. Prepare a controlled systems failure, make it look like the supercarrier has been crippled." The officer's eyes widened in momentary surprise, but she quickly recovered, her features hardening with determination. "Understood, General. I'll coordinate the necessary adjustments to our power grid and weapon systems." As the Imperial forces continued their relentless assault, the human supercarrier suddenly began to falter, its massive form listing to one side as gouts of plasma and debris erupted from its hull. Moff Tarkin, observing the battle from the bridge of his flagship, let out a triumphant laugh, his features twisted in a savage grin. "Fools!" he spat, his icy gaze fixed upon the stricken vessel. "Their primitive technology is no match for the might of the Galactic Empire. Prepare boarding parties. We shall claim this prize for the glory of the Imperial cause." The Imperial ships surged forward, their guns falling silent as they maneuvered to encircle the supercarrier, their focus shifting to deploying legions of stormtroopers and specialized boarding craft. Tarkin watched with barely contained glee, certain that his long-sought conquest of Earth was now within his grasp. But unbeknownst to the overconfident Moff, the supercarrier's crippling damage was nothing more than a carefully orchestrated ruse. Deep within the vessel's vital systems, the human engineers had diverted critical power reserves, masking the supercarrier's true capabilities and luring the Imperial forces into a deadly trap. As the enemy ships closed in, their crews already celebrating their impending victory, a series of coordinated countermeasures sprang to life across the supercarrier's vast expanse. Powerful energy conduits were rerouted, redirecting vast amounts of power to the vessel's arsenal of advanced weaponry. Turrets and missile batteries that had previously appeared disabled suddenly roared to life, unleashing a devastating barrage upon the encircling Imperial ships. Beams of searing plasma tore through shields and hulls, while swarms of guided missiles streaked toward their targets, their warheads detonating with cataclysmic force. Caught completely off guard, the Imperial forces found themselves in disarray, their overconfidence and arrogance shattered by the humans' ingenious trap. Tarkin's triumphant grin twisted into a mask of horror as he watched his invasion fleet being systematically torn apart by the very supercarrier he had dismissed as a relic of a primitive civilization. "Impossible," he howled, his fists clenching in impotent rage. "This cannot be." But as the battle raged on, it became clear that the Galactic Empire's seemingly inevitable victory had been snatched from its grasp. The humans' desperate gambit had worked, and the fate of both civilizations now hung in the balance. As the Galactic Empire's overconfident forces surged towards the seemingly crippled human supercarrier, intent on claiming their prize, they found themselves caught in a deadly trap of the humans' own making. On board the supercarrier's command deck, General Ivanov watched the tactical displays with a grim, determined expression. The crucial moment had arrived. It was time to unleash the full fury of their hidden weapon. "All hands, brace for impact," he ordered, his voice cutting through the din of the battle. "Divert all available power to the forward weapon systems and shields. We're about to give these Imperial bastards a rude awakening." Across the Supercarrier, the crew sprang into action, their fingers flying over their consoles as they carried out Ivanov's commands. Powerful conduits were rerouted, channeling tremendous amounts of energy into the vessel's arsenal of advanced particle beams, plasma cannons, and missile batteries. As the Imperial ships drew closer, their crews already celebrating their impending victory, the human supercarrier's defenses suddenly came alive, unleashing a devastating barrage that caught the enemy forces completely off guard. Searing beams of superheated plasma lanced out, slicing through the Imperial ship's shields and hulls with ease. Volleys of guided missiles streaked toward their targets, their warheads detonating with cataclysmic force that tore the enemy vessels apart. Swarms of point defense laser turrets swept the skies, shredding through waves of TIE fighters like a scythe through wheat. Moff Tarkin, his features contorted in a mask of sheer disbelief, watched in horror as his vaunted invasion fleet was systematically dismantled by the humans' unexpected counterattack. "Impossible!" he roared, slamming his fist against the tactical display. "Their weapons have no right to be this powerful. Divert all power to the shields. Annihilate that cursed ship." But the Imperial commanders found their orders falling on deaf ears, their crews too overwhelmed by the sheer ferocity of the human onslaught to respond effectively. The Supercarrier's relentless barrage tore through the enemy formations, devastating the Imperial ships and sowing chaos in their ranks. Caught completely off guard, the Galactic Empire's forces found themselves in disarray, their technological superiority rendered meaningless in the face of the humans' ingenious trap. Maneuverable TIE fighters were obliterated by the Supercarrier's point defense systems, while the lumbering Star Destroyers and Subjugator-class cruisers were reduced to smoldering hulks, their hulls breached and their power cores breached. General Ivanov watched the unfolding carnage with a grim satisfaction, his hands gripping the edge of the command console. The humans' desperate gambit had worked, and the Galactic Empire was now paying a heavy price for its arrogance. "For Earth," he cried, his voice resonating through the Supercarrier's communications channels. "For the future of our species." As the battle raged on, the Imperial forces found themselves in a desperate struggle for survival, their vaunted technological superiority crumbling in the face of the humans' relentless onslaught. The fate of both civilizations hung in the balance, with the Galactic Empire facing an unexpected and humiliating defeat at the hands of the primitive human race. As news of the Galactic Empire's stunning defeat at the hands of the primitive human race spread through the vast interstellar civilization, it sent shockwaves that reverberated across the galaxy. The aura of invincibility that had long surrounded the Imperial forces had been shattered, and the ramifications of this unexpected loss were already beginning to manifest. Aboard the battered remnants of the invasion fleet, a shell-shocked Moff Tarkin stared at the tactical displays, his features etched with a mixture of disbelief and barely contained fury. The Supercarrier and its human defenders had decimated his armada, turning his long-sought conquest of Earth into a humiliating defeat. "Impossible," he growled, his hands clenching into trembling fists. "This cannot be happening. The Galactic Empire does not lose to such inferior species." But the grim reality could not be denied. The Supercarrier's relentless barrage had torn his fleet apart, reducing his once mighty force to a ragged collection of damaged and demoralized ships. Tarkin's confident dreams of subjugating the humans and claiming their homeworld had been reduced to ash, and he knew that the consequences of this failure would be severe. Across the vastness of the Galactic Empire, the news of the stunning defeat spread like wildfire. On subjugated worlds, the populations had long chafed under the yoke of imperial rule, their hopes of freedom seemingly out of reach. But now, with the Empire's vaunted military might proven vulnerable, the seeds of rebellion began to take root. In the streets of the imperial capital, citizens whispered in hushed tones, their eyes darting with a mixture of fear and newfound hope. How could the all-powerful Galactic Empire be bested by a backward civilization like humanity? The very foundations of the imperial regime were being called into question, and the once unassailable rulers found themselves facing a growing tide of dissent and unrest. Sensing an opportunity, the leaders of conquered worlds began to mobilize their populations, rallying them to rise up and assert their independence. The imperial governors, once secure in their authority, now found themselves besieged by angry mobs and organized resistance movements, their grip on power slipping. In the halls of the Imperial Senate, the reverberations of the disastrous defeat were palpable. Senators who had long kowtowed to the military's demands now found themselves emboldened, their voices raised in protest against the Empire's heavy-handed tactics and the perceived incompetence of its commanders. Moff Tarkin, his pride shattered and his position threatened, knew that he had to act quickly to stem the tide of rebellion. Summoning his remaining forces, he ordered a hasty withdrawal from the Earth system, his once mighty invasion fleet limping back toward the Imperial core worlds. But as the battered ships made their way through hyperspace, the Moff could not shake the haunting realization that the galaxy had changed forever. The humans' stunning victory had undermined the Galactic Empire's aura of invincibility, and the ripples of this momentous event would continue to be felt for generations to come. In the wake of the Supercarrier's triumph, the nations of Earth found themselves united in a newfound sense of pride and purpose. Their homeworld had proven its worth, and they were no longer content to be mere vassals in the Galactic Empire's expansionist designs. The future of humanity was now firmly in their own hands, and they were prepared to forge their own destiny among the stars. Reeling from the devastating defeat at the hands of the human supercarrier, the Galactic Empire was forced to withdraw its remaining forces from the Earth system, its once mighty invasion fleet reduced to a ragged collection of damaged and demoralized ships. Moff Tarkin, his pride and ambitions shattered, knew that he could no longer risk a prolonged engagement with the formidable human defenders. The very foundations of the imperial regime had been shaken by this unexpected loss, and the threat of open rebellion across the conquered worlds loomed large. As the battered imperial ships made their jump to hyperspace, General Ivanov and the crew of the human supercarrier watched their retreat with a mixture of relief and cautious optimism. The immediate threat had been vanquished, but they knew that the Galactic Empire would not simply accept this humiliation and move on. "They'll be back, with even greater force," Ivanov murmured, his weathered features etched with determination. "We must prepare our defenses and rally the nations of Earth to stand united against the imperial onslaught." In the weeks and months that followed, the human supercarrier became the centerpiece of a rapidly expanding military and technological alliance among the nations of the world. Its successful defense against the Galactic Empire's invasion had instilled a newfound sense of pride and purpose in humanity, and leaders from across the globe sought to harness the vessel's power and expertise to bolster their own defenses. Shipyards were constructed, advanced weapons and shielding systems were developed, and the once disparate human factions put aside their differences to focus on the common goal of safeguarding their homeworld. The supercarrier's battle-hardened crew became the core of a burgeoning interstellar force, training recruits and sharing their knowledge to elevate the capabilities of the entire human civilization. As news of the Empire's humiliating defeat spread throughout the galaxy, the ripple effects were profound. Conquered worlds seized the opportunity to rise up and assert their independence, their long-suppressed desires for freedom ignited by the humans' unexpected triumph. Imperial governors found themselves besieged by rebellious populations, their authority crumbling in the face of the growing unrest. Within the core worlds of the Galactic Empire, the once unquestioned rule of the imperial regime was now being openly challenged. Senators who had long been cowed by the military's demands now voiced their dissent, while citizens in the streets grew bolder in their protests against the heavy-handed tactics of the imperial forces. Moff Tarkin, his reputation in tatters, found himself embroiled in a desperate struggle to maintain the Empire's grip on power, but the damage had been done, and the once mighty interstellar civilization now faced the very real prospect of fracturing from within, its many subjugated peoples seizing the chance to break free of their shackles. As the human supercarrier and its allies continued to fortify their defenses, preparing for the inevitable imperial counterattack, A new era began to dawn in the galaxy. The Galactic Empire, long seen as an unstoppable force, had been shaken to its core by the unexpected triumph of the primitive human race, and the future was now rife with uncertainty. For humanity, the victory over the invading imperial forces had ignited a newfound sense of purpose and destiny. No longer content to be mere spectators in the affairs of the galaxy, they were now poised to take their place as a formidable power, ready to defend their sovereignty and forge their own path among the stars.